Welcome, my children of the night. In Act 1 of the Batman Vampire Trilogy, you witnessed how the Dark Knight clashed with the Lord of the Undead himself. Though victorious, he bore the curse of the bite, condemned to walk as a creature of the night. Yet, against all instincts, he denied the seductive lure of human blood. But now, Gotham's clown prince of crime emerges from the shadows, and with a devil's grin, he swears to drag Batman screaming into the abyss. Can the Dark Knight resist his rising hunger while facing the madness of the Joker? Or will his thirst consume him at last? Tonight, we descend into Act 2, Batman Bloodstorm. Smash that subscribe button and let's sink our fangs deep into the lore. The vampire bat of Gotham. Beneath the cover of Gotham's eternal gloom, Batman moved through the streets like a phantom, his new form casting an eerie outline across the skyline. His presence was more than human now, something darker, sharper. When he stumbled upon a mugging in progress, he didn't hesitate. The attackers turned their guns on him, but the bullets did nothing. Fear overtook them as Batman let out a low, unsettling laugh and swiftly brought them down. Nearby, something else caught his eye. A woman's body, pale and still, hidden among the trash. Her blood had been completely drained. Batman knew what that meant. Without a second thought, he drove a wooden stake through her chest, preventing her from returning as one of the undead. As he stepped away, he whispered the same words he'd spoken before. To death, in peace. Days passed. Deep in Gotham's forgotten underworld, the Joker crept through the twisted maze of tunnels. Shadows clung to the damp walls, but he came prepared. A vial of holy water in one hand, a cross in the other. When he encountered a pack of feral vampires, they snarled but hissed and retreated at the sight of his weapons. Grinning, the Joker made his pitch. He didn't want to kill them. He wanted to recruit them. Batman had become something new, something they all feared. Why not fight fire with fire? Revenge, he said, was sweeter when shared. The vampires, stirred by his words and tempted by the chance to strike back at the Dark Knight, accepted. And just like that, they named him their leader. The Joker had found his army. Murders in the mist. Gordon and the police came across a decayed vampire body in the river, and he concluded that the horror was far from finished. He offered gratitude to the heavens for Batman, knowing the Dark Knight stood with them. Batman drifted back to his sanctuary in the form of mist, where Alfred awaited him. The craving for blood weighed heavily on him. Alfred swiftly handed over a solution, the same serum Tanya once devised to suppress the hunger. Batman drank it, gaining temporary relief. Yet he sensed that the artificial plasma was weakening in its effect. It no longer sufficed. Dracula's bite had granted him greater strength, but at the same time it stripped away the lasting power of Tanya's cure. Alfred then revealed a weapon for his master's holy crusade, an oak stake crafted as a batarang blade, laced with silver. He vowed to produce more, and Batman expressed his thanks. Elsewhere, the Joker elevated a vampire called Creech as his lieutenant, laying out a wicked plot to feed upon the upper crust of society. Later that night, Batman jolted awake from a monstrous dream where he tore into Tanya's neck, drinking her blood with savage lust. A vile vision of animal instinct, he realized the beast within was rising. Without delay, he answered the bat signal. There, he requested Gordon's aid in striking at the vampires during daylight. Gordon swore his steadfast loyalty, pledging to rally a circle of trusted allies for the coming war against the undead. The pain of power. Joker had issued a call from mob boss Donato Cardona. When Cardona and his crew showed up, they found only Creech waiting. Outraged, Cardona demanded that Creech fetch Joker at once. But in that instant, Creech shifted into his true form, a grotesque vampire fashioned from a rotting corpse. He and the other vampires pounced on Cardona and his men like ravenous predators, slaughtering them mercilessly, severing heads and draining every drop of blood. At the bloody conclusion, Joker appeared, delivering his grisly punchline. Batman traced Cardona's trail to the Arcadia Cemetery, a desolate ground devoid of crosses. It was the lair of freshly turned vampires, Cardona and his men among them. Batman stormed in with relentless force, striking them down with his silver-laced batarang blades. One by one, he annihilated them until only Cardona remained. Before Batman could deliver the final blow, Cardona spoke. He accused Batman of waging a false crusade, claiming he was no different from the creatures he hunted, bound by the same thirst for blood. Batman faltered, insisting he never drank it. Cardona retorted that abstinence changed nothing. Sooner or later, the hunger would overwhelm him, and when it did, he would become the very beast he had fought against for so long. Unable to bear the accusation, Batman roared in torment, driving the stake through Cardona's chest and severing his head. He fled into the night, consumed by inner torment. As he wandered the desolate streets of Gotham, only one thought echoed in his mind, his desperate struggle against the pull of bloodlust, until at last he vanished into the wilderness. New blood. In the dim alleys of Gotham, Selina Kyle was heading home from her work when suddenly a voice emerged from the shadows. It was Creech, craving her blood. His jeer swiftly turned into pursuit. As Selina bolted from her stalker, Creech shifted into a monstrous wolf and lunged at her. The struggle carried them onto a bridge, where Selina was overpowered by the beast's brutal strength. His fangs tore into her shoulder. Summoning her last reserve of will, Selina broke free and hurled herself into the Gotham River. Creech howled in fury, knowing the undead were powerless to cross flowing water. Selina dragged herself to shore, battered and bleeding, before stumbling back to her apartment, collapsing into a heavy, exhausted sleep. Meanwhile, Joker and his legion of vampires stormed the mansion of Manny the Shark. But before Creech could sink his teeth into Manny and turn him, Joker executed him with a shot to the head. Afterward, Creech sank his fangs into the corpse. Batman and Gordon resolved to investigate the fresh zones where the blood plague had taken hold. Within his hideout, Joker revealed to Creech the full scale of his vision. He and his chosen clans would drain Gotham completely, transforming its populace into the undead. Once the city was reduced to a hellscape, the plague would spread outward, expanding across the nation, a design echoing Dracula's own dark ambition. The Catwoman. Joker slipped into a nearby nightclub alongside Manny the Shark, who by then had already turned into a vampire. Manny singled out a girl working at the club and insisted on meeting her one of them. When she refused, Manny tried forcing himself on her. At that moment, Batman smashed through the window and ordered Manny to release her. Batman hurled his bat stakes at the vampire, but Manny managed to evade each strike. Using his enormous strength, Manny overpowered Batman and hoisted him into the air. Just then, Joker stepped into the room. Batman was stunned to realize Joker had aligned himself with the vampires. Recovering swiftly, Batman subdued Manny, but Joker seized the chance to flee. Batman prepared to plunge his stake into Manny's chest, but his gaze drifted to the girl's neck. He could hear the rush of blood within her veins. The hunger surged back violently. Drenched in sweat, he resisted the primal urge to lunge at her, and instead drove the stake through Manny's heart. He barked at the girl to run away and choose a different life. Elsewhere, the silver moon bathed Gotham in its glow, and beams of light spilled into Selina's room. The moonlight triggered a mutation in her blood, making her feel unnatural. Slowly, her body altered, transforming her into a werecat, Catwoman. Staring into the mirror, she realized it was the wolf's bite on the bridge that had caused it. She swore vengeance on the beast, promising it would bleed for her. As Joker plotted Batman's death in his lair, Catwoman leapt from her window and prowled Gotham's rooftops, hunting the wolf that had bitten her. From her perch, she spotted Batman soaring past, his giant wings unfurled. Mistaking him for her attacker, she lunged, beating him viciously. Batman countered with a punch, restraining her, and drew his bat stake to end her. She screamed for him to finish her once and for all. He hesitated. The truth soon emerged. Batman was not her infector. Selina realized he was Gotham's only true vampire slayer and offered her aid. Batman rejected her, roaring for her to go. Before leaving, Catwoman revealed her true name, Selina Kyle, so Batman could find her again. The unstoppable hunger. The artificial plasma could no longer calm Batman's hunger. His craving for blood grew worse with every passing hour. Even the simple nearness of people tempted him to tear into them and drain their veins. Tanya had centuries to perfect the plasma substitute, but Batman had no such mastery. Worst still, Dracula's bite had heightened his transformation in ways he could not control. Seeking guidance, he turned to Ariane, while Catwoman watched quietly from the shadows outside. Batman questioned how moonlight was able to alter the dark creatures so drastically. Ariane explained that the moon's gravitational force stirred tides within the blood of the infected, sparking chemical reactions that allowed them to change form. Batman then raised his struggle with bloodlust. Ariane answered that legends spoke of the selfless love of a woman easing the torment, yet sooner or later, surrender was inevitable. Overcome with despair, Batman roared, smashing through the window and leaping into the night. Meanwhile, Joker stormed into a church and strangled its priest, claiming the holy place for a trap he intended to set for Batman. Elsewhere, Batman's state worsened. Alfred returned to the lair only to find him consumed by a frenzy of hunger. When Alfred offered him the formula, Batman hurled it away, declaring that nothing but real blood would satisfy him. He shouted at Alfred to get out before he attacked, vowing to live alone. Heartbroken, Alfred departed, leaving Batman to crawl on the ground, licking the spilt sustenance like a desperate addict. In grief, Alfred rushed to Gordon for aid, and, in the depths of his lair, Batman descended further, giving in to his first kill. He seized a rat and drained it dry, savoring its blood. Raging and lost, he cried out for Tanya, and from there, his spiral only deepened. Love versus thirst. Batman's craving drove him to Selina again. He was nearly delirious, burning with fever and drenched in sweat. Barely able to speak, he pleaded for her aid. Selina brought him back to her apartment and lay beside him through the night, somehow steadying him against the hunger that threatened to consume him. By morning, when Batman awoke, he was stunned to realize the first had vanished, and equally startled to find himself in bed with Selina. Selina had shifted back into her human self. She introduced herself properly to Batman, and together they promised to resume their hunt against the vampires once night returned. They both drifted back into sleep, side by side. Almost an entire day had passed without word from Batman. Alfred, worried and unsettled, had no idea where he had gone. Reaching out to Gordon, he confessed his concern. Gordon offered comfort, reminding him that Batman was forged for this, that he could withstand anything, prevail against any foe, endure without end. Elsewhere, Joker and Creech filled their lair with women from Gotham, preparing them for a macabre banquet. When darkness fell again, Batman and Selina emerged, setting their sights on the mansion of a mob boss who preyed on nightclub girls. Batman's thoughts lingered on Selina, reflecting on how her unselfish devotion had quelled his thirst. One night had been enough for him to fall for her. They crashed in through the skylight, confronting the mobsters. The sight of two drained girls lying lifeless snapped Catwoman's restraint. In a frenzy, she tore through the vampires, slashing with unrelenting fury. When the slaughter was done, they severed the heads of the fallen. Outside, beneath the cold moonlight, Batman shared Joker's true scheme with her. Joker intended to transform the mob and Gotham's elite into vampires, bleeding the city dry as was their nature. The contagion was spreading too quickly for just the two of them to fight. They would need Gordon's help. Escalation. Answering Batman's call, Gordon and Alfred moved swiftly, preparing to strike the mob boss's estates at first light. Meanwhile, Batman and Catwoman returned to their apartment. A surge of overpowering love swept over them, and as they held each other close and drifted into sleep, dawn broke. With daylight, Catwoman reverted back to Selina. They awoke together in each other's arms, cherishing the moment, wishing that the dawn would never fade. In that embrace, they found completion in both their bond of love and their sacred crusade. As the morning unfolded, Alfred and Gordon slipped into the mansions of the city's mobsters and aristocrats, prying open their coffins. One by one, they drove stakes through the hearts of the sleeping vampires, finally releasing them from their curse. Yet the carnage left them both shaken, nauseated by the scale of the slaughter. By nightfall, Creech hurried to the Joker, reporting the annihilation of the mob lords. The only vampires left now were those hidden in the basements of Joker's church. Joker, aware that Batman lingered outside, tracking Creech and the rest, devised a trap to draw him toward a deserted warehouse nearby. Batman and Catwoman trailed the vampires as they left the church, following their path straight to the warehouse. The moment they entered, they were ambushed. Creech and his pack surrounded them, wielding crossbows that fired wooden bolts, encircling them with deadly intent. Face off! Batman and Catwoman lunged at the horde of vampires, cutting through them with relentless force. None could stand against the combined fury of the two. Batman, with precise combat mastery, drove stakes into their hearts one by one. Catwoman, wielding raw, feral strength, tore through her foes with ease, while the deranged Joker stood aloft, crooning a twisted tune of madness. Creech tried to flee by shifting into his wolf form, but Catwoman's eyes locked onto him. She remembered the beast that had cursed her into becoming a werecat. With a feral cry, she leapt upon him, tearing into him with savage claws. She ripped open his abdomen, dragging out his entrails, and fulfilled her vengeance by wrenching his heart from his chest, killing him instantly. From the darkness, Joker observed, seething at the loss of his bloodthirsty army. Furious yet eerily composed, he raised a crossbow, set his aim on Batman, and fired. In that suspended instant, Catwoman saw it unfold, time itself seeming to freeze. She screamed and hurled herself into the bolt's path, the wooden stake piercing her heart instead of Batman's. Batman's cry echoed into the night. He caught her in his arms as life slipped away, her body growing cold. In that moment, his last tether to redemption, his fragile hope of resisting the monster within, was destroyed, erased, by nothing more than a sliver of wood. Joker sneered, twisting her death into a vile punchline. Overcome with uncontainable rage, Batman snapped. Joker loosed another arrow, but Batman caught it mid-flight. With the ferocity of a true predator, he leapt upon his nemesis. This night, Batman would show no restraint. This night, he was all out of mercy. The taste of true blood, Joker fled in terror, shrieking and cackling like a lunatic. He bolted straight for the Church of the Rosy Cross, the one sanctuary he believed could shield him from Batman. Inside, he lured Batman into a chamber lined wall-to-wall with holy crosses. Convinced of his victory, Joker jeered, certain Batman was powerless. But Batman's lips curled into a smile darker than Joker's own, and the clown's glee vanished. Batman revealed the truth. The crosses held no sway over him, for his heart remained untainted. He had never consumed human blood. Desperate, Joker doused Batman with holy water, but Batman only licked it away with relish. For the first time, fear truly rooted itself in Joker's soul. Dodging Joker's frantic assaults, Batman seized him and bellowed that he had murdered the only woman he loved. Joker sneered, daring him to feed, warning that once Batman tasted his blood, he would be damned forever. Batman struck him, but his strength snapped Joker's neck, leaving it hanging grotesquely, the jugular exposed. The craving surged over him. Trembling, Batman struggled against the urge to commit the final sin. Even broken and dying, Joker let out a ragged laugh. It shattered Batman's restraint. In despair, he surrendered, sinking his fangs into Joker's throat and drinking deeply. The tainted blood coursed through him like a drug, overwhelming him with intoxicating ecstasy. He gnawed savagely, desperate for every last drop spilling from Joker's veins. Wailing in torment, he begged Tanya and Selina for forgiveness. Then his body ignited with searing pain. The crosses blazed against him. He had become a true damned vampire. Batman finished Joker by driving a stake through his heart to prevent his resurrection. Then, ablaze with burns, he hurled himself through the church window, only to crash into the rising dawn. The sunlight seared him further, and screaming, he fled from the crosses, the daylight, and the blood, toward the solitary refuge that awaited him. The last letter, Alfred wept uncontrollably as he read through Batman's last letter addressed to him. In those words, Batman confessed his failure. He pleaded with Alfred and Gordon to carry forward his sacred mission of eradicating the vampires. And in closing, he asked them to perform one final deed on his behalf. Together, Alfred and Gordon stepped into the frigid stone crypt where Batman rested without movement. The dawnlight had come, and he lay deep in his slumber. With sorrowful hearts and trembling hands, the two fulfilled Batman's last wish. They drove a stake through his heart as he slept, a gesture born of love and a solemn vow to uphold his crusade as a hunter of the undead. As they carried out the act, they spoke their final words of parting. To death, in peace. Batman's lips stood faintly, whispering in return, peace, forever. When all was done and Batman lay lifeless within the crypt, Alfred and Gordon turned and walked out into the light of day. And thus, my children of the night, the Bat is dead, his blood spilled, his body staked, his soul drowned in the abyss. But tell me, can his crusade truly perish? Can you slay the undead when their curse festers forever in the marrow of the world? In the final act, the Dark Knight rises again, but not as Gotham's savior. No, this time he is nothing but a savage beast of fangs and fury, a monster that craves only blood and death. With Tanya gone, with Catwoman torn from his arms, there are no chains to bind his hunger. Only madness remains. And now the question looms, can Gordon and Alfred end the abomination that was once their friend? Or will Gotham drown in his carnage? All will be revealed in our next descent into darkness. The last chapter, Batman, Crimson Mist. Support the comic industry and keep sharpening your fangs, for the next feast shall be the last supper.